Hey guys, Skellington80 here. So it is the spooky month. Well, not really. I'm pre-recording these videos in July because I'm busy with school during October and therefore do not have time to upload and record consistent Halloween videos, but by the time I will post this, it will be October. I'm not sure why I mentioned that, but happy Halloween, everyone. To give you all a special Halloween treat, I've decided to post a video a day from this book, The Big Book of Monsters by Hal Johnson and illustrated by Tim Seivert, whatever. I'm sorry sir, if you're watching this video, I'm terribly sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong, but why would you be watching my videos? Never mind. So, every day, I will post a video with one story from this book, and I will do this for 25 days because that's how many stories there are in the book. And before I begin, I'm just going to state that not all of these stories have kid-friendly content in them. In fact, quite a few of them, since they were written a while ago, are not kid-friendly, and not all of them have particularly happy endings, so this is the chicken exit, folks. If you don't want to go on this scary ride that will last 25 days, this is your chance to get off now. But if you both can handle what I'm about to give you, then let us begin. Alright. This book is dedicated to my own little monster, the Great Khan. I'm guessing that's a pet or something, and that's from Hal Johnson. And to the monsters in my life, Elizabeth, Buddy, Herman, and Miss Kitten from Tim Seivert. And this book was made in 2019. Okay. Let me fix this for a sec. Oh, crap, I don't know. Never mind. Okay, here there be monsters. A note from the editor. Since the beginning of time, humans have given shape to their fears by telling stories of things that go bump in the night. Some of these stories have been passed down orally from one generation to the next and never written down. Others have made their way onto clay tablets, parchments, and into books. In fact, the earliest written stories feature sun-swallowing serpents and fire-breathing beasts. Later, during medieval times and the Renaissance, poems and plays told tales of poison-spouting dragons and wicked witches. Then came the age of Gothic literature, when readers met those dreadful fiends, Dracula and Frankenstein's monster. Here you'll find retellings of 25 of the most spine-tingling monster stories throughout history. Stories you can look up and read yourself if you dare. In each chapter, you'll see passages and quotations. These come from the source text or an English language translation. Each chapter also offers a glimpse beyond the book, where you'll learn what inspired the authors to write these tales of dread. For example, William Shakespeare wrote Macbeth at a time when many people in England believed that witchcraft was a real threat. So it's no surprise that his play features 3 demons. Oh, fudge! Sorry, that was my fault. The tray tipped forward and the iPad fell. I'm so sorry. Okay, as I was saying, a couple centuries later, when advances in science were rocking the world and people feared the dangers of scientific experimentation, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, that classic tale of science gone wrong. As the world changes, some fears are put to rest, but new ones always arise. And as long as there is something to fear, there will be monsters. A final word of caution before you turn the page. Be careful and trust no one. Sometimes even the friendliest face can hide a monster. I'm looking at you, Dorian Gray. Yeah, you'll figure out who he is later. Okay. Today, we bring you the story of Apēp, from the Book of the Dead, circa 16th century BC. See, giant freaky serpent with an army of demons. Dang, the illustrations in this book are something else, let me tell you. And they're especially the title and illustrations. Oh, fudge. Tim Seibert was not messing around. Okay, and also, I'm sorry if I pronounce some words in this book wrong, because I am American. I speak very little Spanish. I speak English and very little Spanish. So please don't get mad at me if I consistently pronounce things wrong, and feel free to correct me nicely. Correct me nicely, please, in the comments if it's bugging you. But without further ado, here's the story of Apēp. Deep in the ancient Egyptian underworld of Tuat lurked the giant serpent Apēp. Some said Apēp had 12 human faces emerging from his back. Others said he had legs. Everyone agreed he was up to no good. Like most underworlds, Tuat was the home of the dead, but it was also quite literally under the world. Every day the great god Ra carried the sun across the sky in his celestial barge, only to descend in the west, come evening, and pass into Tuat, and there Apēp lay in wait. Apēp hated Ra. Every night he plotted against the god, and every morning he lay hidden under the place of sunrise, waiting to spring upon the celestial barge and swallow up the sun as he, Ra, was about to rise in the eastern sky. Apēp was not alone, for he was accompanied by legions of devils and fiends, red and black, and by all the powers of storm, tempest, hurricane, whirlwind, thunder, and lightning. But neither was Ra alone. On his barge rode the other gods known as the children of Horus. They carried chains and they carried scepters, and above all they carried fetters, which is another word for chains, I think. This was going to be a fight. Even with the children of Horus on his side, Ra might not have been able to overcome Apēp and his monstrous army, but Ra had a secret weapon. The ibis-headed god Thoth, or Thoth, I'm just going to pronounce it Thoth, the wisest of all beings, mortal or divine, had taught Ra a magical spell that could paralyze all of Apēp's limbs. As Ra recited the sacred words, his followers throughout Egypt chanted along with him, adding the strength of their magic to Ra's own. And then things got violent. First, Ra shot his fiery darts at Apēp. Then the children of Horus hacked the monster's body to pieces, which shriveled up under the burning heat of the rays of the sun. Just to be safe, they fastened chains upon him and fettered him with fetters. Then all the devils and fiends of darkness fled shrieking in terror at their leader's fate. Safely, the sun rose out of Tuat and passed into the world above, and it was dawn in Egypt. And this happened every single morning. Every daybreak was a fight to the death, and perhaps it still is. If Apēp ever wins, it will be eternal night, and every morning he tries, and every morning he fails. And although he is chained up and dismembered, over the course of the day, the reptile breaketh asunder the fetters, bursts his chains, and gets ready to try again the next night. Once again he is hiding by the gates of dawn. Once again his legions of demons are waiting for him. Every single morning. Okay, so there's a little blurb at the front, or on the title page, of every monster. I should have read this first. It basically says their category, base of operations, when it happened, their powers, most dastardly deed, and their fear factor. Although the fear factor is kinda relative. Okay, the category is demigod. The base of operations is Tuat, the Egyptian underworld. When, every night. His powers are recovering from daily dismemberment. His most dastardly deed is attempted sun swallowing, and his fear factor is 4 little ghost faces. Although that's kinda relative. And on this page, there's a paragraph that says, cutting up snakes. The myth of the battle between Ra and Apēp is related to a myth that appears in many cultures across the globe to explain the creation of all things. A powerful god fights a water serpent, a dragon, or a giant at the beginning of time. The god pins down the monster, cuts it up, and creates the world from its body parts. In these myths, the creation of the world, Earth, is the triumph of order over chaos, with chaos often symbolized by a serpent. Alright. And this is the part beyond the story called Beyond the Book, or after the story called Beyond the Book. That was redundant. A coffin or a book. The ancient Egyptians never wrote a book called the Book of the Dead. In the early 19th century, pioneer Egyptologists gave the name to scrolls of papyrus found in Egyptian tombs. As scholars got better at reading hieroglyphics, they realized that this so-called Book of the Dead, which contained spells and incantations, hymns and litanies, I don't know what that is. It's spelled Litanies, magical formulas and names, words of power and prayers, could be found not only in coffins, but also on coffins, painted on the sides, were cut and painted on the walls of pyramids and tombs. Many of these texts were first translated into English by E.A. Wallace Budge, keeper of the Egyptian and Assyrian antiquities in the British Museum. The quotes used in this chapter can be found in his translations, such as The Book of the Dead, 1895, The Chapters of the Coming Forth by Day, 1898, and The Egyptian Heaven and Hell, 1905. It's probably best to take Budge's translations with a grain of salt, though. He was a bit of a bluffer and had a habit of passing himself off as more fluent than he really was in various languages. Hieroglyphics. The ancient Egyptians wrote in hieroglyphics, but the word hieroglyphics is actually Greek. It means sacred carvings. These sacred carvings started out as simple pictures. A dog meant dog, an eye meant eye, but over time hieroglyphics became more complicated, with some characters taking on abstract meanings and others simply referring to sounds the same way our letters do. Sorry. And after the Romans conquered Egypt, knowledge of hieroglyphics died out completely, and for a millennium and a half, no one could read the innumerable carvings on ancient Egypt's ruins. In 1799, though, while most of French General Napoleon's soldiers in Egypt were getting captured or killed, one of them found an ancient tablet they called the Rosetta Stone. The stone had the same text written in Greek and in hieroglyphics. Since scholars could read Greek, they were able to puzzle out what some of the hieroglyphics meant, and this proved to be the key to piecing together 3 millennia's worth of Egyptian writing. Dang, that's honestly kind of cool. I mean, I'm not super into Egyptian history, but you've got to admit, that is pretty cool how they recovered it. Okay, and lastly, the first short stories. The ancient Egyptians are generally considered the first people to write fiction. Among the papyrus scrolls dug up from Egyptian sands are several short stories similar to fairy tales. Some of them were collected by the French Egyptologist Gaston Maspero in Popular Stories of Ancient Egypt, 1882, including the story of King Khufu and the magicians. One of the magicians who appears in the story, Didi of Dedesanafrui, I don't know, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, is 110 years old, but every day eats 100 loaves with a whole leg of beef. Didi knows how to make himself followed by a lion without a leash, but more impressively, he knows how to put back in place a head that has been cut off. To prove it, Didi once decapitated a goose and put the body on one side of the room and the head on the other. Then he recited some magic words. It hopped, the head did the same. The goose rose up, it hopped, and the head did the same, and when one head reunited with the other goose began to cackle. Alright, so that wraps up today's video for today. Have a very happy spooky month. Put down in the comments your favorite type of Halloween candy and what you're going to dress up as this year. I honestly don't know. But, like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!